Hi, I'm John Austin. I'm the host of this YouTube channel, John the Backwards Dude. 2 years into doing this channel, a doctor pulled me aside and diagnosed me as having autism. It's on the very high functioning end. They thought I had autism when I was really little, but they dismissed it because they didn't know much about it back then. Because of this, I've really become intrigued with the subject and wanting to reach out to other people who are also on the autism spectrum. I recently caught up with Michael down in Georgia, who reached out to me on Facebook, and we did a sit-down interview just talking about our lives, and I'm going to show that to you right now. If you like this, would you please give me a thumbs up in the comments? That way, YouTube's algorithm knows to suggest this video for other people. Now, here's the interview. Michael, tell me how old you were when you found out that you were on the autism spectrum.
I was 12 years old, going into middle school.
Yeah, and what was school like for you up until that point?
Well, school was always difficult for me because even though I didn't even know what autism was when I was prior to being diagnosed, I always knew I was different from the start. I always knew I was different from my peers. Like I felt like a black and white world and I was the only one in color, or vice versa. Like I just felt like a freak in society. Like everyone's the same, but I'm the different one, and everybody's okay with being different, but I just felt something was just too different for me.
What did your parents think? What did your teachers think up until that point? Did they think you were just playing a game or just cutting up? I mean, what would they say to you?
It would be the simple task to do, and the simple things, like for example, go find a washcloth. I'll come back with a towel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be called stupid because I couldn't do something simple. When I thought of towel, I thought about like a hand towel, like from the kitchen, or a towel that you put in the bathroom. So I didn't know really the difference was. I mean, it was folded, but I was called stupid. So that kind of destroyed my emotions, kind of like my confidence.
Mm-hmm. For me, I remember being in first grade, and we were told to never write on the back sides of our paper. And then one day we were given a test, and I would be kind of spacey, and the test just happened to be on both sides of the paper. So I finished the first side of the paper, and I went to the back of the room because the teacher said you can leave your desk. And I was in the back of the room playing, and all of a sudden, my teacher comes up and she literally grabs my arm, and this is back in the 70s, so you know, she could have probably been arrested for this now, but she grabbed my arm and shook me violently and told me that she said not to get up until I was finished, and literally dragged me across the classroom from the back of the room back up to the front of the room where I was sitting, and slammed me forcibly into my chair. And I said, I did, I finished everything, and she took the paper and she said, there's another side. She slammed it down on the desk as hard and as ugly as she could, and she stormed off.
Oh my goodness, dude, I'm so sorry about that.
And it wasn't too long after that they put me in a class of autistic children. I was pulled out of class, and I remember being scared. And I remember the kids that were in the classroom were way more autistic than I was. And they didn't know back in the 70s about the autism spectrum like we do now.
Right.
And they just treated me like I was this troublemaker and wouldn't do my work. And so eventually I got to the point where I would not do my work. It's like, well, if this is how you're gonna treat me, this is how you're gonna act, then I'm gonna be stubborn. And they completely ignored the fact that I was the only kid that could work with all the AV stuff in the classroom and nobody else could. So that was kind of my experience early on, and it kind of went on like that. They took me out of the autistic class, and for the rest of my school career up until 15, 16 years old, it was a nightmare. They kept me in learning disabled classes, said I wasn't very smart, and then they, the ridiculing and the harassment and the bullying got so bad that they had to pull me out of high school altogether. And then I got a GED through the community college. And I actually wound up learning more because I got a special tutor, but I still wasn't diagnosed with autism spectrum at that point.
And look at you now.
Yeah, I know. Look at me now, right? And how did you feel after, you got your diagnosis and it's like, okay, I'm different. What was it okay for you to be different? Did you have support?
I was kind of feeling like I was alone. But when I was diagnosed, I flipped my script because you would think I would have had closure, or like instead of aha, it's like, oh no, kind of moments, because I felt so embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, well, maybe everybody was right. Maybe I am stupid or dumb, as they say. But then when I was put in to special ed, I was really advanced compared to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because here they were in class, they really couldn't read or understand things and do math or read comprehension. But here I was, read really, really well, and doing math problems make them look kind of like they weren't as smart as I was. But it wasn't the case. It's just that I was really good at reading and stuff, but they were not. And I had to grow patience with that, because here they were in class reading books and stuff, and they would be misspelling a word or mispronouncing it. The teacher would tell them to break it down in simple steps, and here I was just losing patience.
Mm-hmm.
But then the whole thing taught me patience. The old saying is, when you meet one person with autism, you only met one person, because everybody on the spectrum is different in their own way.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. You made me think of something else from school. This is my middle school years, and they had me in learning disabled classes. And they thought that if they just started putting me in one normal class here and one normal class there, I would be fine. But they did it without giving me any kind of direction at all. So I wound up in it was an elective, I guess. It was kind of an industrial arts class where you did some industrial arts and some other things, and we had to use a special type of measuring stick and use like a mathematical formula to do something, and I had no idea what to do. And it turned out this particular teacher was the nicest teacher I had ever had. I'll never forget, it was a male teacher, and I told him, I said, I'm in learning disabled classes and I can't do this. And he said, oh, it's like, well, here, let me show you. It's really simple. If you do it this way and this way, then that's all you need to do. And I understood it because he actually showed me, and he was really nice about it instead of being ugly, and I was able to finish the project.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? I just wish I'd had more teachers like him.
Right. I've had a couple good teachers that were my angels in school. This was high school. I had a teacher. She was the very best I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
She was so gracious that every year there was a special needs prom in high school. And she always told me, because I was always left out, but she said, you're going to continue to feel left out if you don't put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask the prettiest girl in school to prom, and I walked up. It took every bit of courage and energy I had. Then I went up to her and I asked her, and surprisingly, she said yes.
Man, that's awesome. I never had that kind of confidence as far as girls went. So this was when I was in the class of autistic kids, and we had to sit in the lunchroom separate from everybody else. And I was probably about 6 years old, and there were these two pretty girls. They had cafeteria duty or something, and they were up by the lunch window, and I walked up to them and I said hello, and they told me that I was a retard and to get away from them.
See, that is so messed up, and to this day, even though I'm almost 30 now, I got a couple years to go, but when I hear that word, it makes me cringe. It literally makes me I really want to fight somebody when I hear those words.
Oh, me too. And then skip forward a few years to the 4th grade. I was at another school, and I wasn't in an autistic class anymore. And I saw another pretty girl in the hallway. And I had gone out there just to get a drink of water, with the hall pass. And there was this girl there, and I said hello to her. And she turned around and told me how stupid I looked, and how stupid I talked, and how stupid I walked. And she said she wasn't going to let me have a drink of water, and what she did was she spat all over the water spout. And she said, there, it's nasty, and now, you know, you can't get a drink of water. So what I did was I walked up and I just held the button down, washed off the water spout, and I said, well, it's clean now. And I took a drink, and I think she hit me or shoved me and told me how stupid I was again. And that was one of the worst incidents that I had, you know, outside of an autistic class.
Wow. One thing I've learned is, you know, some people don't understand autism because they don't know much about it. But also in some rare cases, and I'm just throwing this out there bluntly, some people don't care to understand it. And if you don't care to understand it, then you miss out on so much, because so many people who are autistic are very genuine and so loyal and very, very honest.
We are, and that kind of honesty can get you in a lot of trouble, I found out, you know. So, you know, you kind of go on with me past school to where I'm about I was the age that you are now, and starting out my career and doing well, and people started seeing that I was gifted with doing video production and editing. But then something would happen and I would say, oh, well, we have this to deal with, or so-and-so said this. And then all of a sudden I had people attacking me going, well, you don't know your job. And what else did they say? Oh, you're a gossiper. They told me I was a gossiper. And I said, I'm not gossiping, I'm just telling you what they told me. And that's why this is this way. But I think a lot of people, if they, you know, just neurotypical people would know how to handle that situation. So it's a communication breakdown, and you're also having to play politics at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous game sometimes.
Yeah, it is a dangerous game.
Because you never know how people can treat you, because I've seen, being how I'm functioning myself, I get to see people's true colors. I can look at somebody right now, they can be the biggest jerk or the nicest person I've ever met in my life, and they find out that you are on the spectrum. Sometimes they realize that they shouldn't have treated you that way, or sometimes you meet people who treat you better because they feel bad for you.
Yeah.
It's like I tell everybody, I don't want you to feel bad for me because I'm autistic. It's not a burden.
Yeah.
It's a blessing in its own way. But I do not like people who are trying to be condescending. I do not like that at all.
Right. You know, I've always had people to think that I'm the most wonderful person in the world and the smartest person in the world. And then there's another group of people that think I'm the dumbest person in the world and this horrible person. And I'll go back to the people who think that I'm a great person. I'll say, these other people are treating me this way. And these people say, there's no way, John. You're just this awesome guy. Why would anyone do this to you? I said, you don't understand. These people, they hate my guts, and I don't know what I've done. And, you know, for a long time, you know, a lot of people wouldn't believe me. But then I started getting some closer friends, and some of them saw what was going on, and they said, John, they said they shouldn't be treating you like that. They shouldn't be holding you back. They're holding you back.
One of the biggest misconceptions about people like on the spectrum, like the two of us, I've had people come up to me and said, I bet you're just always happy and you're just so happy about life. I have down days just as well as anybody does, probably more days, but it's a bad misconception, because people think that you have autism, or people think nothing gets you upset, that you have to be this big old grand person all the time, every day, and happy about life, which I had to do that for a while. But then that destroys your psyche, and it destroys you mentally. So it's like I tell everybody, when I have bad days or down days, I shut my phone off. I shut myself up in the house, so I don't have to worry about the world. The world doesn't have to see me, and I don't have to see them.
One thing that we can do when we're on the spectrum like this is, and I know you know this, is we can act like someone else. I'm really good at getting around people and then picking up their mannerisms, and a lot of it is out of survival. For me, as time has gone on, especially since I've had more friends in my life, since I actually went off to college, which was film school for me back, I was 38 when I went, so it was later. I wound up getting a lot of newer friends and a lot of younger friends, and things started getting better at that point, because people started kind of accepting me for who I was. And there was still a lot of rejection, but I still had some acceptance, and that was enough for me to go on. And I wound up moving back to Charlotte. Finding out who I was and who I wasn't, that was really, really important. And I realized I had to come home. And a few years later, I get properly diagnosed because I'm doing backwards, dude. So let's talk about superhero strengths. You know, mine obviously is tech stuff and working with words and sounds and mimicking them and able to say them backwards. What is your superpower?
Well, I typically don't call it my superpower, but I can remember dates. I mean, I've been wrong before, and I tell people's birthday, and sometimes I can think of the day they were born on, and I think it's pretty interesting. And I make friends pretty easy, and I have a great group of friends who I love so dearly, and they look after me, they do things with me, and they know who they are, and I'm so grateful for them.
So, have you ever had a meltdown in front of any of your friends?
Yes, I have.
And what do they do to calm you down?
Well, you know, it depends the group of friends that you're around, because with me is I have friends who are older than me, I have friends who are younger than me, but these particular two friends, they're the same age as each other. They're both 8 years older than me. I was in a restaurant one day, and I told them about having a ride home, and one of them said, I can take you there, but you need a ride home, because the other friend said he was going to take me, but he said that he couldn't do that, so we might have to call an Uber. And it's not their fault. It's just in our minds, we don't like change. So it really threw me through a loop, and I had a meltdown. And I was, I'm not sure about you, but when I have a meltdown, they can last anywhere from 10 minutes to days. But they was being the good friends that they are to me. They were patient with me. They were nice about it.
How are they nice to you? Do they just talk to you, or do they help you talk through it?
Well, they say it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath. You just have to, next time you have to be more organized.
And that reassurance that they accept you even though you've kind of lost it makes all the difference in the world.
I know a lot of brilliant people out there who have autism, and people tell me, "You don't look autistic," and I say, "What am I supposed to look like?"
Exactly.
It makes me so happy that so many of my friends are happy for me, and are very, very proud of me, and I'm very proud of them. And it's such a blessing to have people who truly care for you.
Is there anything in particular that you want people to know about autism?
When you meet somebody with autism, don't be a bully, be a friend. And ask questions and learn and educate yourself, because people with autism are very honest and very loyal and very genuine. I want you to know, if you're on the spectrum, you got this, you're gonna make it. Don't second guess yourself. Let people talk, and you are somebody, you're loved. You belong to God, and He loves you so much, and you are not a burden. God created you to stand out, not to fit in.
Very well said, Michael. I agree with you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. And thank you so much for your friendship, too.
You're a good friend of mine. To me too, John.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this interview, and I'm going to have more content coming at you really soon.